They said she was quiet. Not shy, not timid, just quiet. She spoke when necessary, observed when everyone else was loud, and moved like a shadow on a battlefield. No one really knew her name, at least not the aliens. To them, she was just the human girl. To the instructors, she was Earth Cadet 17 Delta. But to the few who watched closely during the combat simulations, she was something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something beautiful and deadly, like the glittering frost on a blade left in a blizzard. The Interspecies Combat Academy was supposed to be neutral ground, a galactic initiative to promote unity and prepare for joint conflict scenarios. It brought together cadets from every quadrant, the scaled Zentarii, the armored Gravuan, the mind-linked Valerii, and, as always, the humans, the newest and most unpredictable addition to galactic peacekeeping. Today's session was close-quarters training. A sparring drill in pairs. Simple technique evaluations, no full-contact engagements. At least, that was the intention. She stood still, arms at her sides, as her name was called alongside her partners, Sat Kor, of the Drenari. He towered over her, nearly 2 meters of sleek obsidian hide and compound muscle cords. His species had dominated their homeworld with Claw and Fong before evolving into the first interstellar warriors. He strutted over to her with a smirk curling his mandibles. He'd heard of human women. Frail. Soft. Overestimated. He was about to humble her, maybe flip her over once for show, maybe squeeze a little harder than necessary. She didn't even look at him. She just rolled her neck like she was loosening rusted joints. Initiate contact stance, the instructor barked. Sat Kor stepped forward, smug and loose. Then he did it. He touched her shoulder. A grip, not hard, but firm enough to provoke. Maybe he meant it to startle. Maybe he wanted dominance. Maybe it was just a mistake. What followed happened faster than a blink. Before the instructor's second eyelid could twitch, Sat Kor's body twisted in midair. A crack echoed through the arena. He landed wrong, on his own arm. The wrong angle made the bone scream. The scream followed, wet and primal. She had shifted her weight, rotated her hips, and snapped his balance like it was paper. His wrist was broken. So was his pride. She stood over him, motionless again, breathing steady, waiting for instructions like nothing had happened. The instructor's eyes bulged. A Valerii's mental pulse stuttered in the air like a dropped frequency. Gravuan cadets glanced at each other, suddenly unsure whether their thick armor meant anything. A Drenari, broken by a single human girl before the fight had even started? The med-drones zipped in. Sat Kor wouldn't fight again for weeks. But it wasn't the physical damage that mattered, it was the silence that followed. Explain your action, the instructor demanded. He touched me without clearance, she said calmly. No tremble in her voice. No anger. Just a statement. Contact was not consented. You were in a sparring drill. He touched me outside protocol, she corrected. Not a block. Not a feint. He grabbed. The instructor said nothing. Neither did anyone else. It wasn't just about protocol anymore. It was the way she stood. The way she moved. Like every inch of her was trained, coiled, aware. A weapon in human skin. It wasn't arrogance, it was fact. She had been bred, trained, tempered in a death world. Earth, with its gravity, its toxins, its predators, its history soaked in conflict. She had grown up among violence, injustice, and the unspoken command that if you were touched, you reacted. The Drenari were warriors. But humans had become something else entirely. Survivors beyond comprehension. Later, in the mess hall, the whispers began. Did you see the way she moved? She didn't hesitate. Didn't even blink. They're like that on Earth. I heard she grew up in a war zone. I heard she trained in a special unit before coming here. And the most important one, if she can do that to a Drenari, what happens if the humans ever decide to stop playing nice? The instructors discussed it in private. Should they reprimand her? Retrain her? But what would that even mean? She had followed protocol. Technically. Barely. She had acted instinctively, flawlessly, and with restraint. She could have shattered more than just his wrist. She didn't. That was what made her terrifying. The Academy updated their sparring guidelines the next cycle. New rule: no unsignaled contact with human cadets. All grips must be initiated by humans or acknowledged vocally before contact. Some protested, called it special treatment. But none of those protests came from the Drenari. Satkor avoided her for the rest of the term. He didn't blame her. He didn't even hate her. What he felt, though he'd never admit it, was fear. Real fear. And respect. He had assumed power was dominance. But humans understood something deeper. Power was restraint. Precision. The ability to end a fight before it began, and the wisdom not to. She didn't speak of it. Never bragged. Never recounted the moment. But her presence shifted the entire training program. Combat instructors stopped underestimating humans. Partner drills were redesigned. Emergency protocols were drafted. Not for wars against humans, but for what might happen if humans were ever provoked too far. They watched her now, from a distance. In zero-G simulations. In weapons practice. In the gravity wells. She performed with quiet focus. No flourish. No ego. But the legend had already begun. They called her the Trigger. Because once pressed, she fired clean. She became the unofficial test. You think you're ready for deployment? Go spar with the Deathworld girl. Most declined. The few who tried returned humbled. One Gravuan cadet boasted he could handle her brute strength. He ended up folded into his own armor. And the instructors, they adapted. Slowly, they began pulling from human methodology. Not just in drills, but in philosophy. Reaction times. Body language reading. Tactical unpredictability. One instructor, a veteran Valerii strategist, summed it up during an internal review. Other species train to defeat. Humans train to survive. It's not the same. That girl doesn't fight like she wants to win. She fights like she refuses to lose. By the end of the cycle, her scores topped every combat metric. Her record was spotless. The final simulation involved a hostage extraction in a hostile alien biome. While other squads hesitated or argued, she infiltrated, disabled 5 threats, and carried the decoy hostage out without a scratch. When they asked her afterward how she did it, she shrugged. I grew up with worse. They believed her. That quiet, deadly girl became a symbol, not just of Earth's strength, but its edge. Humanity wasn't just another species. It wasn't just adaptable. It was primed. Built on generations of chaos, evolution, conflict, and resilience. And she, Earth Cadet 17 Delta, was the proof. Years later, as the galaxy spun forward and new wars loomed, the story would be retold, about the alien who touched a Deathworld girl and learned, in the space of a blink, what death truly looked like.